All right, everyone. A less than great national championship game here in 2020, but a great, I want to underline great college football season. A great college football season. We should all celebrate as college football fans. This has been an amazing season because it's been played to a conclusion and played to a championship. So it's been tremendous. It has been tremendous. It's been a joy. It's been just a joy and a pleasure to watch college football when we thought at one point that we may not have college football in 2020, that we may not be able to enjoy it to a conclusion and see a legitimate championship played. And we saw a legitimate championship season out of the Alabama Crimson Tide, no question about that. So congrats to Alabama. Congrats to Nick Saban. Congrats to all our Alabama viewers who watch us on a regular basis. I get calls almost every night from Alabama fans, so congratulations to all of you. I don't want to name just a couple names because I've got a couple at the top of my head and tip of my tongue to mention in regards to Tide fans who call here, but congratulations to you, another national championship for Nick Saban. And if there was any doubt before tonight, I don't believe there was. Nick Saban is the greatest college coaching record in history. He has the status as being the most accomplished college football coach of all time. Simply amazing what he's done since 2007 at Alabama. I will take your calls in just a second. Somebody's calling right now. I will get to your call in just a second. Let's get into it here. 35 on the line here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is what we do best. And when I say we, I mean we. I don't mean me. This is what we do best. Talk college football with you. So I will go through all the comments and the questions and the debate topics in the live chat. I will answer all your phone calls, of course. This is the night that we wait for, the national championship for college football. A less than stellar game, not a great game, a great into the second quarter back and forth, and then Alabama took control. And I have a list of just basically names. I usually go through and I just take exhaustive game notes. Well, I was watching the game with my daughter and son, so I wasn't going to be sitting there taking exhaustive game notes. I just jotted names down that I wanted to highlight in regards to performance tonight. All right, let's remind everyone that this channel only flourishes because of you, only succeeds because of you. Shop Amazon, use the link in the description section of any of the videos. Smash the like button. Let's get 500 likes tonight. We're going to continue to take calls from you and answer questions and respond to your comments, your analysis, your take on college football, not just this game, but the entire season. And we will be here for the next 8 months until we've got another college football game to talk about. You know that. Okay, so let's get to 500 likes, because we're probably going to get 10,000 views. So let's get at least 500 likes. That's only 5%. So let's do it. So start smashing that like button. Let's get it cranked up here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Shop Amazon. Use the link in the description section below. I shouldn't have to tell you that, but we're going to keep that crawl going most of the time when we're on here. And we're also going to remind you in just a second, and we will get the crawl down there, 860-325-3687. And of course, the Super Chat's on. The Super Chat is available to you to help us build the channel. We will only be here 6 months from now, a year from now, continuing to talk college football with you and building the best channel that we possibly can with the best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's our mission. That's our goal. That's our aim. That's our, did I say mission? With your contribution, your individual contributions, and if you know anyone who could sponsor the show, whether it be your small business or another, please contact me at MarkRogersTV@gmail. All right. Now I'll take your calls. Here we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Hello, who's on the line?
Well, I wanted to get in here first and kind of go over the autopsy of this one, Mark Rogers. First and foremost, I'm going to give credit to Alabama. They're just a great football team. I have to say, a lot of bad signs early on here for Ohio State. Missing some key players. And then when Trey Sermon broke his collarbone, I didn't have a good feeling, there either. I don't know if it was a broken collarbone, but I think that might have been it, Mark. If he's going to the hospital. I don't know if that was your vibe, but any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't necessarily, I'm not big into vibes, but I know where you're headed with that. I just think from a nuts and bolts, X's and O's standpoint, it's not a good thing when any team loses their best running back. Is that why Ohio State lost? Probably not, but
No.
Is it a reason why they lost and lost as decisively as they did? Of course, there's a reason that Trey Sermon is the #1 back on the team. He just ripped up Northwestern, one of the best defenses in the country, for 331 yards. He just laid it on Clemson for $175 or whatever it ended up to be. And Trey Sermon's a tremendous back. He would have done more damage than Master Teague. I don't think there's any question about that. He's a better back. He's proven to be a better back. Substantially better, not necessarily, but he would have gained more yardage. Maybe it keeps a drive or two alive. We don't know what the situation is there. So the Buckeyes certainly right out of the gate, from an X's and O's standpoint, yes. Talent standpoint, yes, of course. Depth standpoint, yes. And also just the psyche, morale of the team thinking, okay, well, we come into this game missing 2 of our defensive linemen, missing our place kicker. Now we've lost our starting running back, who has been a force in this season, in particular the last 3 games. I think it probably weighed on the psyche of certain players and maybe the entire team.
Yeah, it was the floodgates started to cave in. And you know what, Justin Fields, we didn't see the best of Justin Fields. There was a moment, Mark, where I said in the second quarter, I don't know if you remember this play, it was 21-14, and he missed Garrett Wilson in the end zone on a pass that he would have hit against Clemson, but he didn't hit tonight. And that just said to me, if he's not hitting those throws tonight, we ain't got no hope. So that was also a bad sign too. And then then the roof just caved in from there. I knew they were going to have to score a lot of points to have a chance tonight. You obviously saw the secondary exposed. My only hope, as I told you before, was that they would get a little bit better of a pass rush. Obviously not having some defensive linemen, that may have helped a little bit too. But, even a completely healthy team, maybe it's a semi-competitive game, but I still think they lose the game tonight. But, maybe they just make a little bit better showing than they did. Certainly couldn't have hurt. Just overall, that's my thoughts. Obviously, you're playing an all-time great team. You better be healthy at every position and have your best players to have a chance. So, but they're a great team, and obviously they won the game. And I don't know what your thoughts on all of that are, but if you want to sum it up for me, what do you think?
I sum it up by saying that Alabama's on its own plane for this year. And Ohio State is probably the second best team in the country. They showed that last week, where they probably played over their heads slightly, or it's actually impossible to play over your heads. You cannot play beyond your potential. They maxed out their potential. They came close to maxing out their potential. They played extremely well as a team, and maybe they didn't give an A effort tonight. Some things go unrecognized in addition to Trey Sermon, Tommy Togiai. Wyatt Davis was lost at some point in the second quarter. I forget exactly when that was. You lose your best offensive lineman. That doesn't help. Can we measure that? Of course, we can't measure that. They lost Devontae Smith at some point in the third quarter. They were certainly in control at that point, but they could have scored more points and done more at that juncture of the game. So, I will have thoughts as we go through this. But, I did not think that Shaun Wade had a good game. I thought that Justin Fields played another gutsy performance, and I think considering the circumstances, he played well. Was he hot? Was he in the flow, in the zone like he was? No, he wasn't in the zone and in the flow like he was against Clemson, but I thought he played reasonably well. I don't remember, you pointed out one missed throw. He missed a couple other ones, but I thought most of his passes that were off target were because of pressure and just receivers being locked up and defended. So I didn't think that he played. I thought that he worked a lot of balls in there, that he showed superior arm strength under duress to get him in there and throw the ball across the field and all over the place. I thought Justin Fields did only but raise his stock and value for the NFL draft, for his legacy as a collegiate player, as a great all-time player in a limited period of time, but just a tremendous player, Justin Fields.
Well, I thought Mark did. The reason I mentioned the missed touchdown is just the margin of error. I can say, and I'm saying this because Alabama is such a great team. The margin for error, you have to make those plays. Is basically what I'm saying is, for him to have a chance to play, to beat a great team, you have to play that great to win. That's where I was going with that.
Sure.
And I think he had a good, average to good game, in my opinion. I thought they would utilize his legs more. They only utilized his legs a little bit. Obviously, not having the balance killed them too. Certainly expected more than 24 points tonight. But I would give credit to Alabama's defense. But I think Ohio State missed a couple of opportunities. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, even a perfect performance tonight probably wouldn't have gotten it done. But maybe makes it a little bit more competitive. That would be the only thing I would say. I will say this kind of last point. I think this will be an interesting team next year because they're going to have a lot of people go off to the NFL. I think it'll be a very young team next year, so it will be interesting to see, as this team becomes more and more of Ryan Day's recruits going forward, what they continue to look like. So that's going to be interesting to see too.
Yeah, no question about that. No question about that. Yeah, appreciate the call. Again, we will continue on from here with more thoughts on it. Thanks, David.
No, that was
yep.
That's basically it. Thanks, Mark. Bye-bye.
I'll have to admit I had a couple of responses to what Dave had to say, and they were just lost at one point. I was just looking at TV and looking at comments and thought, oh, David said a few things that I was going to respond to, but they're gone now. They are gone. So, of course, Trey Sermon got hurt the first play of the game. So it's funny when people mention excuses. So no team should lay out or fan base should lay out players being injured as an excuse, because you play the game with whomever you have available. Should we talk about it? Yeah, this is called a college football discussion channel. This is a discussion channel for college football. So for us to not talk about injuries and players that are missing is idiotic. That would be completely moronic. Devontae Smith missed much of the second half. Would he have caught more passes, gained more yards, and put together an even greater, more prolific day? Yes, he would have. So we'll mention that as well. So Trey Sermon left the game in the first series. One carry out. So again, we can only speculate on the impact of that injury and missing a player that was so dynamic and has been on an incredible run in Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not comparing Trey Sermon to Ezekiel Elliott, but statistically going on a Zeke Elliott kind of run the last three games against Michigan State, Northwestern, and against Clemson. So he gets lost. Master T comes in. He plays relatively well, scores the first two touchdowns of the game for the Buckeyes, but he's not. He's more of a straight line runner than Trey Sermon is. Less wiggle there, less. Trey Sermon's not a scat back, elusive guy, but there's a little bit more going there in the open field for Trey Sermon than Master T. Justin Fields, I thought was, and I'm just going through. I'm not doing an Ohio State slant. I just jotted down players' names. I will certainly get to the Bama side, and it's got to start with Devontae Smith. who put on an all-time great performance for the Crimson Tide as the MVP of this game. And I believe Christian Barmore was on the defensive side. I've got some thoughts about him as well. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Byron.
Hey, Byron, how are you?
I'm doing well. That wasn't much of a game. I enjoyed watching it, considering it was the last college football game of the year.
Yep.
I mean, just not much to be. Like you were saying, Barmore looks hungry.
Yeah.
As he was trying to chase down Fields, he had a game and all that. But I personally was wanting to call you and see what your opinions on the Browns winning their first playoff game in like a decade and a half.
Well, actually, let's go 2.5 decades to be more accurate about it.
Oh, yeah, no, that is correct. Yeah, that is correct.
There you go, 26 years for the Browns. My thoughts?
How do you feel about it? You excited? They look really good.
Oh, they look really good. I'm kind of a fringe Browns fan. You know, they're technically my team. I watched the game with my son, who would have been ecstatic a couple of years ago, but he's kind of out of sports right now. He doesn't really care, so he wanted to come over and watch the game. But man, he would have been, just flying through the roof a couple of years ago,
That
quarter
was ridiculous.
like he did when the Indians went to the World Series or the Cavs won the NBA championship. That was when he was in his element, but he could. Yeah. So we enjoyed the game. It was like, had they lost, I wouldn't have cared. But yeah, it was fun to watch. It was an NFL playoff game. It was kind of freakish, obviously, how it started off and everything.
To take into a little bit more of a college perception of it.
Yep.
How do you think that Baker has evolved? Would you say he's really matured into a professional quarterback?
I think.
Because I never personally thought he was going to make it.
He's about.
What's your thought?
This is my thought about Baker Mayfield, and again, I say this every time anybody asks me about getting inside of a guy's head. Is that basically I say, this is my perception, this is my thought. That doesn't mean that's what actually is going on in between his ears or in his heart. But Baker Mayfield, for as much of as he likes to project himself as being his own man, and that, you know, he's kind of a loose cannon and just does his own thing and doesn't care what anybody else thinks, I think he's been affected a ton by coaching. I think when he's had capable coaching that he's progressed. And in that second season with Freddie Kitchens, for all the Alabama love we'll give tonight for the great Alabama tradition and legacy and the current team being the best in football, Freddie Kitchens is a horrible NFL football coach and is the last guy on the list of guys that you would hire as an NFL head coach. And I just don't think that he or Hugh Jackson were good for Baker Mayfield. And now that he's had good coaching, and, you know, there was a lot of talk about that they brought in just too many egos on that team, and that Baker Mayfield was getting kicked around by the Odell Beckham Jr.'s of the world to say, you know, you need to throw X number of passes to me a game. And instead of playing within the system and throwing the ball where he needed to throw it, that he knew, okay, Landry's got to get this many and Beckham Jr.'s got to get that many, and I got to throw this many to this guy and that guy, and that got into his head. And he's a bit of a gunslinger, which is kind of cool to watch. But if you can take the gunslinger and educate him and harness him in, you don't want him to lose that. But if he can do that and still be smart with taking the calculated risks, then you get the big plays, plus you limit the risk. And I think they've done that very well with him. And he's responded well to it.
Kind of almost a modern-day Brett Favre.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was thinking of when I made that comment about being a gunslinger. Even in the way he throws the ball, he winds up and throws it.
He really does remind me with that mechanic.
I love watching him. I love watching him when he wants to zing one in there, when he wants to cock back and rip it. Yeah, he looks like Favre. And the last thing I'll say about that, because we'll need to stick to college football, especially in this night, is they gave him one of the best. Well, Byrick, they gave him one of the best running games in the NFL to support him too.
Oh my God!
So he doesn't have to throw it.
Ridiculous.
You know, Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback throwing 25 to 28 times than throwing 45 times.
Exactly. Most quarterbacks are.
Yeah, there you go. Anything else tonight, Byrick?
That's about it. It was a good game. National championship. Not much of a game, competition-wise, but I enjoyed watching it. College football. But I'll let you go, Mark.
Appreciate it, Byrick. Have a good night.
I'll talk to you later.
All righty. Have a good one.
Bye.
I had nothing to say about the Browns when Byrick asked me that question. Then he got me going on the Brownies. All right. Alabama wins 52-24. Devontae Smith. If he didn't deserve the Heisman before this, and I know it's a regular season award, of course, he is the best player in college football because of – and I tend to point to my TV, and you guys have no idea what I'm pointing at, but I just do that because I'm seeing the plays right now in front of me. Devontae Smith. We're talking – man, maybe I should produce some videos where I'm looking at all-time great teams because Devontae Smith should be right there. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
That's Dave Knight, sir.
Hey, David. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, bro. It's man. I want to say sorry because I was really pulling for the Buckeyes tonight.
Well, they get completely outclassed and just beaten. But they're a good team.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. I don't think they got outclassed. They started off tough. Mark, I think I got a lot of stuff to say to you, but I'll keep it brief because I understand that other people would like to be on the call. The play calling from Sir was extremely original.
Mm-hmm.
The pass rush from the down lineman from Ohio State wasn't as good as it was against Clemson. I thought at some point in time they needed to maybe bring a little heat. And as much as I watched the game, I didn't see them do that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that we can credit number one, first and foremost, of course, the Alabama offensive line. You know, this has really been at the core of Alabama's greatness since Nick Saban built them into a power in 2008 is the offensive line above everything else. You know, we can talk about great quarterbacks and wide receivers, but it's been front seven on defense, and the offensive line has been remarkable. Ohio State was missing Tommy Togiai, who is an elite nose tackle, who would really push that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were the most effective against Clemson in pass defense because of one thing: pushing the pocket in Trevor Lawrence's face, collapsing it in front of him where he couldn't step and couldn't throw, and he was harassed and hurried. And, you know, that would Tommy Togiai have made up for 28 points? No. Would he have forced some incompletions? Probably. Stuffed some runs?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, he would have. You lose your best running back on the first play of the game? That's an issue. It's part of the game.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I think Sherman really, going full circle, I thought, when he came from Oklahoma, I was thinking, what was Oklahoma thinking when they didn't play him more? Because that guy's a definite hard butt, right? I'm trying not to cuss on your show, so I'll keep it clean.
You can cuss all you want. So I don't want to get a misperception, and I'll just cut you off real quick, David. People can cuss on my show. I don't care. People come on here and cuss all the time. I just don't want to like it just flowing out of people's mouths constantly. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that. So, but he had these monster games, right? And I think we had talked before where he was in his zone. He was on pace, and I think that I didn't see the exact hit because when we're watching the game, and even when they show the replays, you don't see anything that particularly strikes them like I think maybe he broke his collarbone. I'm not for sure about that. But, yeah, that took a little wind out of the sails at that point in time. But the Ohio State offense was not clicking like it did against Clemson. But, man, Rucker, your tight end, nice one-handed catch. Great one-handed catch.
Sure.
And I thought, man, like, these guys are going to stay in this. And then things, I don't know, along the way, kind of fizzled out. I don't know how to say it. And then when they ran the ball on a fourth down play, I was like, what could you possibly have been thinking about? You're like one of the best offensive coordinators in the game, and you're running it to Master Teague, who's not a Blazer. What was your thoughts on that when they pulled that play?
Well, I thought in this day and age of college football, if it's not, unless you are a dominant team over your opponent that you can overmatch, you need to throw the ball in that situation. That was like a long 2.5 to 3 yards. That's a long way to try to guarantee a game. And it got stuffed. What happened was it looked like he was supposed to have a lane off right tackle. It wasn't there. And then as soon as Master T tried to bounce it wide, he was toast because exactly what you said. He has, according to Ohio State beat writers that I have on here, he's supposed to have some of the best speed on the team. I don't really see it, number one. Number two, even if he does, it must be once he gets going. He's not a change of direction guy at all.
He's a big cat. I mean, he's physically, he's got good stature, right? He's a big dude, but, and Mark, you know this as well as I do. Like, if you put somebody in a 40, somebody's initial burst from that 0 to 5 or 0 to 7 to 8 yards versus the entire 0 to 40, those are two different things. Like when people talk about quick and fast, quick is not the same as fast. But I thought Master T, when he got in the game, he ran hard, he played well, and I think that was a poor play call. And I told you before about some friends, and we were texting back and forth. I was like, why were they thinking about when they ran the ball on fourth down? It's like, at least let Justin Fields back up and throw it. And if he can't find somebody open, then at least he's got the will to get the first down. I felt like that was a crucial play. I mean, what are your thoughts?
You're talking about the Justin Fields play in which you lost me there. I'm sorry, David, at the end.
No. Let me repeat that. When they handed off to Master Teague, and you said he bounced it outside.
Yeah.
I thought the best way to go on that was not to run the football, but to back up and pass, even like a tight end drag play. Man, that Rutgers dude is extremely impressive. I can't believe that you would never find them open. Yeah,
well, like I said, when you asked me the question, they should have thrown the ball, and it's easy to say it right this second, but I felt that way. It's just a long way to run against that Alabama front. I don't remember what it was. I think it was 2.5 to 3 to 3.5 yards, something in that range.
Yeah, I think that's too much to ask for. And then I'm going to say this to you, and I'm going to let somebody else jump on the line. But man, that Devontae Smith, he is an incredible athlete. To be diminutive as he is, he's not a big guy.
Yeah,
he's very thin, but he is so elusive. Like, wow, I just, I thought it was a Notre Dame problem.
No.
I think it's a college football problem.
Yeah, it certainly was this season. Now, we'll see if Alabama can maintain this kind of dominance next year. They didn't win it, of course, last year, but for this particular season, they're far and away the best team. And they're going to be back next year and probably be they're going to be one of the best teams, no question. Will they be the best team for sure? We shall see. They lose a ton of talent, but they replace it and will reload like they always do. Now, a comment that you just made, and I'll put this together with something that David Greenshield said that slipped my mind, was Justin Fields was very effective running the ball, and I believe, as most people do, coming into this game, that they didn't want to risk getting him injured, so the run game with Justin Fields wasn't going to be part of the game plan. But when they got a little bit desperate there during the drive in which they cut it to 38-24, and it was going to possibly be a game at that point, he started taking off with the ball, and in particular one play where he just completely duped two Alabama defensive backs. Now we're talking about fast, quick guys, and he just gave them a jab step, and he was gone right by him and picked up 35 or 40 yards and ran a couple times effectively. And I thought at that point, I was like, I don't want to put the kid at risk. And obviously this wasn't part of the game plan, but man, this has been missing, and they just didn't rely on that. And that might have been very effective. It was certainly 4 or 5 times.
And see, Mark, and that's why I was alluding to back to when they ran Master Teague. Like, let Justin Fields back up, and if he doesn't see anything, then let him take off. Now, I felt like if you have a 5-yard drop, so you're looking at, instead of a 3-yard gain, you're looking at an 8-yard gain, he definitely could have got that. And why not give him the opportunity to do that? I just like, this is a offensive coordinator, or maybe Ryan Day, jumped the call from the offensive coordinator. I was like, this makes no sense at all. And like, we're just stewards of watching college football, right? You are much more analytical than myself, but in watching this, I was like, man, that doesn't make sense. And the other thing, like, I feel like Ohio State's defensive backs, even though people had their words against them, I definitely would have played man on that. Alabama receivers, and here's why, Mark, because they're going to get their yards, but why do you want to let them march down the field easily, and then you get in the red zone, and Ohio State cannot stop them in the red zone? So at least give your defense a fighting chance. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that what most defenses need to do against an offense like this is, okay, this is just very simple to start out with, is that you got to stay with what you do well and what you know, but you can't show them, be limited to that in terms of what you show them. You need to mix it up and provide some different looks and mix up the blitz packages up front and the coverages. But I understand that their thought process coming into this was, we're going to play soft and make Alabama take forever to score, and then you hope for penalties, you hope for sacks, you hope for a negative play, a dropped pass. They're not dropping passes. They're not going to miss on too many throws at all. They're just not going to do those things. And then, as Herbstreit talked about many times, play red zone defense. I think you could do that at times, but you could mix it up and get Alabama guessing as to which defensive approach on a particular series you're going to take. But when you've got athletes, like Ohio State has athletes, and David, when you get off this call, if you care to do this, you could clean up a lot of idiotic comments that I'm reading in the live chat. But anyway, like somebody made an idiotic. Somebody made an idiotic. Some moron made a comment about Ohio State's not a top 10 team. Well, if Ohio State's not a top 10 team, then we've got Alabama number 1, and then we've just got 9 blank spaces, and then we start at number 11. I guess that's just a stupid comment to make, because they have an NFL team. They have an NFL team out there. So
sometimes I get frustrated with the side chat because there's so many people in there that they're not really there to talk analytically about football. they're there to pump their chest and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
They may be on altered states, you know. See, that's why I like you. John Sarian's cool dude, Jordan Bowman, Cheryl. I mean, but there's a lot of people in there that they don't really know anything about football, and they're just blah, 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 blah.
Well, you know, if you're a fan of a particular team and they win a championship, you know, certainly I know that this for a lot of people is like the greatest day of their year. And that's great. I'm not demeaning that in any way when I say that. I just think that generally too many people they gain too much self-worth from how well their team's doing. So
when they had nothing to do with it.
yeah. And so like, yeah, I just don't get that. So I just don't get that. You know, I've rooted for really horrible teams my whole life. And, you know, that doesn't reflect upon me. You know, it's just the teams that I've chosen to root for. And sometimes they've been really great. And that's fun to watch. And I'll celebrate the championship. But it's no reflection on me as an individual. But, yeah, so it's just kind of interesting as a sociological kind of study to sit back and watch that.
It's interesting demographics. But the last question I have for you, you have two awesome quarterbacks coming into camp next year. Do you have any insightful information about them?
About who coming into where?
Ohio State's got two really awesome quarterback recruits coming in at the same time. So there's going to be a duel, right?
Yep.
Do you have any information? I mean, do you have any insight? Because you have your three buddies that you do your Ohio State program with. Do they have, or do you have any insight how that's going to pan out?
I'll be able to tell you a whole lot more in a couple months because as it stands right now, I'm not a high school recruiting guy. So to me, they're just names. I know the names. I stay up on everybody's recruiting just through the beat writers that I have on here. And, you know, somebody asked me the other night about watching some high school players tape. And I'm like, you know, that just doesn't interest me. I don't have time for it. I'll wait till they hit campus. When they take on an actual college game, that's when I'll see them for the first time, or in spring practice at the spring game or something like that. But no, I really have no insight into who should beat out the other guy and who's better and what style they play, anything like that.
I'm looking at the side chat. Well, there's a lot of Ohio State haters in here right now. Man, I'm sorry about that, Mark. God bless you, and I'll let somebody get on here, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too, sir. Bye-bye.
See you, Dave. No, we want to invite all lovers and haters of whatever college football team. So Ohio State haters are welcome to my channel because, shoot, I've been called an Ohio State hater probably 100 times over the course of this channel. Why is that giving me some kind of stupid thing I've got to install that I don't want to? There we go. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing well. Doing great. How you doing tonight?
All right. Congratulations to both teams for a great, outstanding season. First thing I want to say, in my opinion, both teams are going to be young next year. I don't think they'll contend for a national championship when they get to the CFP. Who knows? But in my opinion, I think Ohio State is going to be a year away in 2022 with Dave's full recruiting process. I think they'll be a monster. But that being said, though, what was it you think in the game? Really determined out of the question. But when weighing that Alabama marched down the field on their first concession and stuff like that, did you think it was like, that Ohio State was going to be in trouble tonight?
Well, I thought Ohio State was in trouble from the time that they got into the college football playoff. I was asked so for tonight, kind of my official prediction from my head was I was on a Notre Dame podcast actually a couple of days ago. They asked me my pick. I said 45-34 Alabama. Then I concluded our pregame today, and I was feeling, hey, I'll make my prediction as a fan of sorts, and I picked Ohio State to win. But, I picked Alabama to a number of – if anybody listened to what I had to say over the last 10 days, I basically said Alabama's been the best team this entire season, or 90% of it, and Ohio State's a tremendously talented team. And for anybody who, we're seeing all sorts of comments about gaps in talent and so forth. Yeah, maybe in some spots. But these are two tremendously talented teams and programs. But Ohio State's secondary always concerned me. The first drive, yes, was concerning on one hand as an Ohio State fan. But then again, I thought, Clemson scored much easier on the first drive of the last game than Alabama. Alabama had to work for that touchdown. Clemson scored like boom, boom, 4 plays touchdown. I can think of all sorts of Ohio State championship teams that smoked teams and gave up first drive touchdowns. The Oregon National Championship game in 2014, Alabama led Ohio State 21-6 in 2014. So I don't get too uptight or worked up by watching the first drive of the game.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good game. I was wrong on prediction as a lot of people was wrong and stuff like that. I just got a question though. I was listening to a couple different live streams and stuff like that.
Yep.
Do you think CJ will be the starting quarterback for Ohio State next year? And who do you think will be between either Alabama or Ohio State? Which one do you think more likely to make this playoff next year? And personally, and you can call me crazy right now, I think Georgia wins the SEC next year.
Okay.
That's if JT Daniels stays.
So, quarterback competition at Ohio State, I have absolutely no thought on that. I don't watch high school players. I don't watch their film. I know nothing about it. They're just a name to me. They're just a name and a ranking. So my job is to, from the end of a season till the spring practice, when there's a position battle, is to talk to beat writers and find out what they think and what they know. And most of them, even though they covered that particular team every day, will say the same thing. We haven't seen the guy. We don't know. You can go through a scouting report or what 247 Sports or Rivals has to say, but basically it's just a ranking. So I've got absolutely nothing to say about Ohio State's quarterback. They're just names and rankings to me. I haven't watched them play.
Go ahead, sorry.
Alabama plays in a better conference than Ohio State. The SEC is the best conference in college football. I believe the Big Ten is second best, but I think it's an argument for the 2 spot. And so, therefore, it would make Ohio State probably has, I hate to say it, I hate to make that determination just because Ohio State's probably got a clearer lead over the Big Ten than Alabama does over the SEC. But Alabama showed us tonight that the 2020 Alabama edition is much better than Ohio State, but I don't know about 21. So if you're asking who's got a better shot at the playoff, I think it's about the same based on those 2 facts or deductions. What was your other thought? There that Georgia's going to win the SEC?
Yeah, I think somehow they win the SEC. It all depends on if JT Daniels comes back. But
he's coming back.
Anyway,
he's announced. He's coming back.
One other question, and it's a 2-parter. Indiana, Rutgers. Yeah, they both had a good season, and I think they'll both continue again next year. Which one of those 2 teams, if they can get high and stuff like that, are more likely to knock off Ohio State and win the Big Ten East next year?
Indiana or Rutgers?
Yeah.
Indiana. By a lot.
I was thinking, I don't know if Michigan will be down again, which who knows about that. And I really can't put a finger or a pulse on that Penn State yet. So I was just asking about who you think could between either IU or Rutgers. Because I think Rutgers is maybe a couple years away from being a good team themselves.
Yeah, when you say a good team, what are you talking about? 8-4?
8-4, maybe 9-3. maybe contend for the Big Ten East. I don't know.
Rutgers going to contend for the Big Ten East. Is that the year Ohio State's on probation? Are we putting Ohio State on probation? I just don't see.
No.
I just don't see Rutgers competing with Ohio State for anything.
Do you think Greg Channel can get it? Good enough team to get in there with the recruiting and stuff like that?
He was there for how long before, and he wouldn't have ever competed with Ohio State. So I don't know what's.
But it was a different conference with the Big East. No, I was just asking. I mean, I'm most likely could be very wrong about that. I was just saying I figured with the success that he had this year with Rutgers, even though I think they finished like what 3-4 or 2-5 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I figure if he can get more success going with it, do you think it might be make a difference, or at least maybe not win the Big Ten East, but maybe be a viable team from the Big Ten though?
I think that Rutgers' realistic goal is to win 7 or 8 games and go above 500 in the Big Ten and go to a bowl game.
Okay. No, I mean, like I said, I was just asking because I wasn't totally sure. Because I know IU and stuff like that, but it all depends on how long they can keep coming out. Mark, great show. I hope we can stay in touch during the offseason.
Of course we can.
And when is the top 25 that makes sense come out?
It's going to come out early tomorrow. I got some work to do.
Then. Yes, you do. All right, then. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it.
Take care. You too. Bye-bye.
You know, I thought the other day that I would need to work on the top 25 that actually makes sense because, of course, we got 1 and 2 here or 2 and 1. And then I could fill out the rest of it and be all ready to go, but I haven't done that. So, and the issue right there is that you basically have a lot of situations in which you can look at Ohio State loss here that drops them to 7 and 1. Well, do you elevate a Texas A&M above Ohio State, or how do you play with all of that? It's you know, Clemson gets a second loss. Other teams only have 1 loss, like Cincinnati, and played so well against Georgia. It could be an interesting top 25 that actually makes sense. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Matthew.
Hey, Matthew. What's up?
So you ready for your best questions of the night?
Here they come, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
In a 14 playoff, this year's Alabama team, last year's LSU team, 2018 Clemson, or 2015 Ohio State?
Woo! 2015 Ohio State or 14?
Was it 14 or 1 or 15? Was it the 15 national championship game, 14 team?
Exactly. Yeah. So that team.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh boy. I'm gonna go. Goodness gracious. Wow. The best defense of those was either the Clemson defense or the Ohio State defense. The best offense were the last 2 teams, Alabama and LSU, and then probably Clemson third, I guess. Although it's tough to knock Zeke Elliott and Michael Thomas, who are like all-time greats in the NFL right now, winning rushing championships. And we're talking Michael Thomas is carving a career that's beyond Jerry Rice at this point.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal to think about. I don't know that really people take that in. Wow. Okay, off the top of my head, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. Wow. There's such a split there between offense and defense for me. I'll go LSU. Oof. I might go with this Alabama team, number 1. And the Clemson team 2, Ohio State 3, and LSU 4. I don't know. That's a tremendous question. I think all 4 teams have different strengths and really no weaknesses. If that Ohio State 2014 team had an NFL quarterback, I'd take them because the offensive line was tremendous. They had the best running back of all of them. the best wide receiver of all of them up until maybe Devontae Smith. We'll see what he does. But in terms of the NFL, we're seeing what Michael Thomas can do. And, man, all first-rounders in the NFL in the secondary, it's a tremendous question. It's a great question.
Yeah. Well, and also you still got to see what Jamar Chase does in the NFL, too, because we saw what Justin Jefferson did.
Oh, yes. Good call. Yeah.
That's why I thought you were going to go LSU there for a second. Then, damn, you put him at fourth. You said, no, I'll put him at fourth.
That's how close I've got him.
No, I agree. I think those are probably the 4 best teams of the last decade, for sure.
Yeah, I've got these Florida State guys that we do a show with on every Wednesday, and they swear that 2013 Florida State team is the greatest of all time. And I'm like, well, I don't know. They didn't play anyone. I just – it's hard to measure them when they're playing Duke in the ACC championship game. You know.
Yeah, and they played a Auburn team that almost got beat 3 times that year. That had to win on like miraculous plays.
Yes, kick sixes and bobbled passes in the secondary. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think I could probably go with LSU. And like I said, they're really close, but I just think that LSU offense is the most precise and best offense I've ever seen. Even better than the Alabama offense, because they had 2 pretty much Devontae Smiths. I think if Jalen Waddle was healthy the whole year, you can make a case, but it's really hard.
Yeah. I was watching actually Najee Harris run tonight, and I was thinking about that LSU offense, and then I was trying to like run through position units on those 2 teams to figure it out, and I was kind of comparing Najee Harris to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's off to a really good start as a Kansas City Chiefs, but I think Najee Harris is a better player, but I don't know. You can't miss with either one of them.
Yeah, they're just different players, I think. I think they're both good in their own way. And I think to come up with like a precise like prediction for that, you'd have to break it down by like defensive line and linebacker.
Yes.
You can just break it down by defense versus defense, because Clemson probably has the best defensive line out of all 4 of those teams. But then I think Ohio State secondary that year was loaded. You know, Marshawn Lattimore, Jerrion Conley, and then Malik Hooker. He hasn't done much in the NFL, but I thought he was going to be the next Ed Reed in college.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another question.
Yep. Go ahead.
Oh, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say offensive line play gets disregarded, but it's to me the most important unit on the field, and we'd really have to do a deep dive on that one. But the 2014 Ohio State team, their offensive linemen have become very accomplished in the NFL. When you're talking Elfline and Lindsley.
And all those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, Bama and then LSU. So, I mean, you got to get there's just a lot of talent between those 4 teams.
Definitely.
Where would you rank Devontae Smith in your lifetime of college football wide receivers?
Oh, my word.
I'm a lot younger than you, so I think he's the best I've ever seen. But
I think I don't doubt it. I've been watching since the late 70s, and you know that the game was played so much different.
Yeah, definitely.
These guys, you know, I saw a lot of great receivers, let's say, like in the 80s, but they really didn't reach their potential as players until they got to the NFL and really played in sophisticated passing offenses, where these guys today, they come out of high school and they've played so much pitch and catch in all these camps, and the way they play high school football is they're just so much more polished, and he is just such a sweet athlete. He is so smooth and so incredible. As I can't argue with that. I can't think of anybody that's better.
Yeah, I don't even think there's anyone. I think if Jamar Chase would have played this year, and the thing is, LSU doesn't have to put Mac Jones or Steve Sarkisian calls plays, but he's really good too. Though I mean, just the 1 year at LSU is insane. But I can't think of. I mean, this was by far, I think, the best year for a wide receiver in college football history. But just his body of work overall has been great in just 3 years. It's gotten better every year.
Yeah, it's incredible what he also just not just looking at the talent, but in terms of just putting together a career. You know, statistically, it was capped off by this year. Statistically, that was the pinnacle where they spread out the ball to various options the rest of his career. But to start out with capping a freshman season with a national championship catch in overtime, which had obviously never been done, and then finish it off by being the best player in the game to win a national championship again is just crazy good.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd get 300. I was really rooting for that. So I think he probably broke his hand or at least a couple fingers.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Do you see, and then this will be my last question, did your opinion, because I'm a Texas fan, did your opinion change on Steve Sarkisian's hire at all from watching this game or just the play calling that he had? Because he pulled out some very good plays tonight, just in general, good play calling. Why is that?
Yeah, that ran through my head because I was a little hard on that hire, not from the standpoint of damning it to say this is a bad hire, this is horrible, but I just didn't get it. On the surface, I didn't get it in terms of, okay, this is what he's been as a head coach in 2 major stops. What has he done since then that could possibly prove to anyone at the level of Texas that this is the man? This is just, we're not even going to search for another guy. This is the guy, because they didn't go on a search. Now, they might have been turned down a couple of times, but they didn't go on a big search. And I'm curious as to whether they talked to Nick Saban. But because I just think working with and under Nick Saban, there's a lot of credibility given to that because of what he's accomplished with these assistants moving on in the last 6, 7, 8 years. And then, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. When they were going over in particular the bunch formations and then also what they were doing with Devontae Smith in terms of the V pattern going to the outside, inside, outside, and that difficult. It's just a spacing issue. It doesn't seem like it's that big a deal or that you have to be a brain surgeon of a football coach to come up with that, but it's just about spacing and just about having an athlete when he changes direction. If he's better than your athlete, every time he changes the direction, he's going to have a step or 2 advantage. And then number 2, that he just gets lost. Even though he's Devontae Smith, the defense gets confused. And subtleties like that win games. They score touchdowns. They convert 3rd and 10, whatever it is. It doesn't seem like a big deal in and of itself, but it is. And I was thinking the same thing when I was watching that. I was thinking maybe I underestimated Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, and us Texas people realize we don't have Alabama talent, but if you're telling us, Bijan Robinson can't be 80% of Najee Harris and Casey Thompson, I think, can do exactly what Mac Jones doesn't fully believe that. We definitely don't have Devontae Smith. That's the one thing we don't have. But we're not asking for that. We're not in the SEC. We just want to win the Big 12. And with our talent, we have the 5th best roster in the country. If he does that at Texas, we should be able to win the Big 12 or at least be in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, and if you get to the Big 12 championship game, then, of course, you're contending for the conference, and by extension, you're contending for a playoff spot.
Exactly. I mean, it's not rocket science. That's all I want. And hopefully we can do that. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Sapphires call, but so far I've been really happy. It's going to be interesting. I don't know who our defensive coordinator is going to be because we've hired all these people on the defensive side, which tells me we have one, but it hasn't been announced yet. So the theory is it's Pete Golding from Alabama. If we and him, I'd be ecstatic. Sure.
Before I move on to other calls, got a question for you. Who do you read or track as a Texas fan? Because I would like to get as good a Texas coverage here as possible.
There's a couple people. Jeff Ketchum, he writes for Orange Buzz. He does a pretty good job. Brian Davis, I believe he works for the Austin Statesman or Spokesman or something like that. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But the people that really pay attention to are inside Texas are like Ian Boyd and Justice Wells that do a really good job. And they were like ahead of this thing on Sarkisian. They predicted it 4 or 5 days before it happened.
Okay. Good stuff. Appreciate the call.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
All right. Appreciate those calls coming in during that last call. So just call on back and the lines are open again. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Lenny the Gump Summers. Ohio State got road graded. Final 52-24. Bama romps the Buckeyes tonight. And there's a tremendous performance for Alabama. Congratulations to Alabama in winning its 12th, 14th, 18th, 29th national championship, whatever, however they count them. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
This is Carrie Ann McCrack, Mark. You might not remember me, but
of course I remember you. Of course I remember you. Congratulations. Congratulations.
50-something years, and this offense has been the greatest that we have ever had. Now, defensively, we struggled, but on the offense, you couldn't have asked for no better team, and I'm just so proud of them. And to play in this year when they had to go through all they had to go through as far as COVID and all that, you just have to admire them, all of them, on every team, you know.
Yeah, it was a tremendous performance and maybe the best offense we've ever seen. Maybe.
And I was so glad we got to play Ohio State in the championship. Leading up to that game against Clemson, and when everybody was just sort of counting them out, I was like, you don't need to overlook Ohio State. I couldn't see how they would overlook them, you know. And then when Fields got hurt and played like he did after he got hurt, you just have to admire a young man like that and admire a football team that produces a young man like that.
Absolutely, and it's classy of you to acknowledge and give credit and recognize, the opponent.
Yes, sir. But I just wanted to call and catch up with you and just let you know what an incredible year I thought it has been, and it's such a blessing to be able to speak with you again, Mark.
Well, thank you so much, Terry Ann. We appreciate the call. Thank you so much for calling in, and congrats again. There's never too many national championships, and for as many times as you've celebrated, I'm sure it's sweet. And I always appreciate seeing your profile picture and that you've commented. So thank you so much for that.
Okay, hon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Have a great night. All right, the Lee Smith channel. We got our asses whipped, lost hurts, but Bama was the superior team. Absolutely. Brown 2020, Ohio State, the 11th best team in the country, like Dabo said. Yeah, like I said a few minutes ago, if Ohio State's number 11, then we've got blank spots between 2 and 11. And Clemson, shoot. If Clemson lost to Ohio State by 3 touchdowns, and I don't know that the game was that close. Maybe Clemson's like number 23, something like that. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hello, this is Roberto.
Hey, Roberto. How are you?
Doing great. All right. They look like, I'll give them kudos. They had an excellent game plan putting Devontae Smith in space. They had him go off for 220 yards and three touchdowns. But I'm just not happy that the effort from Sean Wade and Tom Forward. I'm not happy with their efforts. Letting, in the end zone, beating them to the edge so easily, not even chasing them down. Sean Wade was jogging, letting Devontae Smith one-on-one burn him. This is ridiculous. I don't think we had a chance. I mean, they only had an excellent game plan, but the effort I've seen from the defense was just frustrating for me.
Yeah, I don't know about Tough Borland. I didn't necessarily see anything there. I saw a number of times in which, I thought the run defense was really strong for Ohio State. It could have been better. They missed some tackles, or didn't really miss tackles. They got dragged around a little bit, but they held Najee Harris. When the game was still in doubt, they were holding Najee Harris to 4 yards a carry. Now, Shaun Wade, I don't. They could pay me to backpedal for 10 or 12 yards, let somebody catch a 15-yard out and just kind of run up and tap them out of bounds. That seems to be what he majors in. And I know that it's a product of the scheme that they're running, but I thought Herb Street highlighted it very well one time when, you're playing for the national championship. You need to be busting your tail and you need to be laser focused. And if you're following a guy who's running in motion and then he reverses, you gotta be mirroring him. You gotta be watching him, and as soon as he cuts, you cut and go the other way. And he allowed, it wasn't Devontae Smith, it was Bolden, I think it was. I think that was the play.
Yeah.
To catch the pass, and sure enough, he meets Bolden right at the pylon. And I'm thinking, if you would have hustled and run your fastest, and if you would have mirrored him when he changed directions, you would have tackled him about the 3-yard line. Would that have made a difference in the game? No, but I got to think that if he took that approach on that play, and there were a few other ones that I saw that I thought, if this is what we're getting out of Shaun Wade, the Ohio State football team, then that's not good, because this guy's going to be playing on Sundays, and he's just not showing up tonight.
Lack of leadership. And Tough Borland has been disappointing for 3 years. There's better linebackers behind him. Like, Justin Hilliard has been sitting there for 6 years. He was a 5-star prospect coming into them. I was hoping I would see him have an excellent year, but he just didn't have the chance for much play time.
Justin Hilliard made some big hits in this game.
Oh, hell, I saw that attack from the back where he flew off Najee Harris. That was excellent play by him.
And even a couple plays that he missed, at least his athleticism got him into the backfield where he at least disrupted he made the back change directions or do something. Maybe he whiffed on it or he took a slightly bad angle, but his athleticism, he beat a block or he found a gap and shot it with his talent.
Yeah. I just don't understand the adjustments on carry cones. Just let them light us up in the air. We can stop them on the knees, but we need to just contain the air attack. And what the most irritating play I saw was Borland on Devontae Smith.
Well, yeah, that's a joke. That's a joke. That's a blown coverage. That's a blown assignment, blown coverage, just not being prepared for that play call and that formation.
I don't know what's going to look in the NFL combine or how it's going to look in the NFL draft. Shaun Wade definitely lost his NFL draft stock. I don't know where Fields is going to be. I hope Sermon's going to be all right after getting hurt, having a broken collarbone, and ended up in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, ever since losing Sermon, the chances of Ohio State coming close to being balanced just slipped away. Because I had no confidence in Massachusetts. He can burst open some holes, but he just can't. Yeah, as you mentioned before, he can't shit. But he also, I don't think he can read holes properly all the time. Remember, like the first play in the season against Nebraska.
First play of the season.
Was so well.
Yep.
That was a house cut. But he cuts it upfield and gets like 2 yards. If he ran more outside, that was a house call in that game. I know it was the first game of the season, a little rusty, but I expected some better job reading holes. Or trusting your offensive line to get some blocks on the edge. I just can't wait to see how Trayvon Henderson's going to look like next year. I hope he can have a great start to his freshman season and make a name for himself. In the quarterback battle next, I don't know if we're going to have a spring, if the COVID's going to get cured or not. It's going to be interesting. We have a loaded quarterback room, locker room. But I just don't know about the secondary. Is this just like scheme problems, or just bad coaching, lack of adjustment?
Well, I think, of course, you've got a personnel loss that was huge last year. Okuda, Fuller, Arnett, and of course well, I was just talking about the secondary, but yeah, when you look at Okuda and Chase Young, you're looking at two players on the defense. You're looking at two players that are two of the three. They're the two top defensive players in the country, as assessed by the NFL. That's a big loss. I still believed that last year's Ohio State team is better than this year's Ohio State team. Even though this one made it further and beat Clemson, I believed that last year's team was better than this year's team.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. It's like a trend where, 2015 we wasted a disappointing season, but losing to Michigan State with Connor Cook and just the worst offense performance ever. And then we get to the playoffs a year too late, where the whole team was young, but we had probably one of the best defensive backfields with Gary Conley, Malik Hooker, Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, Jerome Bagel was linebacker, but the offense wasn't there. So there's a lot of question marks for next season, but I know the offense ain't going to be a problem. We need to make adjustments defensively. That's all I got to say.
Okay, appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. So people make too many score comparisons that don't understand the context of the game. So we got Oprah Joe right there, and I'll take this call, but I need to respond to this because, again, this is why we're here, to put things in context. So to say that Notre Dame in 2012 played a closer game against Alabama is completely incorrect. That game was 35-0 at halftime. There's no comparison between the two games and the two teams that were playing in both of those championship games. The gap between 2012 Alabama and 2012 Notre Dame when they played was enormous. Enormous. This was a much more competitive game. If you don't see that, then just keep watching our channel and you'll learn more. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Jacob. How you doing?
Hey, Jacob. I'm doing well. What's going on?
Oh, nothing much. Enjoy watching some football tonight and stuff. Mark, I think one thing I like about football is it kind of, I don't know, I guess you could say it brings, there's not a lot of fillers in it. I guess, you play the game and you find out, through all the politics, I guess, and all, the crap, I guess. And, first and foremost, I guess before I got into football, I guess I want to say I gotta think. I'm just happy to be breathing today, and gotta thank Jesus for waking me up today and everything. But I wanted to. I guess I had a thought about Sean Wade and some of the corners. I don't know if you remember, it was the play, I think, after the play, they were showing the replay of the Devontae Smith reverse, and he went behind the backfield, and they flipped it to him, and he scored that touchdown. I kind of thought, I wondered if Sean Wade should be covering him, not because I think Sean Wade's a really good player. I think he's really good, but I just think he's more of a slot guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame him for having the hunger and want to help your team and stuff. And like you said, I don't think you can get in the mindset of a guy and stuff. And I always try to stay away from that. But I'll say I kind of think the missing of Kuda and Arnett really hurt him. And one more thing I'll just say is the better team won tonight. And I just think Ohio State, we have the offense and everything, but I don't really think that. I don't know. I just think the psychological thing kind of possibly played a part. But I had a lot of other thoughts. But I just kind of thinking about it a lot tonight. There's so much about this game, so much in it. It's just kind of hard to. But I guess I just wanted your thoughts on that. And do you think DB should focus on the receivers as much? Do you know the particular play that if you remember, they was doing the replay they were showing, I think it was it Banks maybe that was covering Devontae Smith on the, I forget, it was one of the reverses that Devontae Smith, he was in motion, maybe it was a pass. Do you remember?
That Banks was covering him? I don't necessarily remember that.
Well, I just seen the replay of it. I didn't see the actual, the live play. I just seen the, Well, I noticed, and I would have did the same thing. But the reason I bring that up, because I played a little football, and one thing I noticed is the corner. I think this is what Sark was thinking was, I think, to kind of get him confused. And I think his game plan was really good. And I heard somebody say earlier that they had the game plan really good. And then I think that David, he made a good comment towards the end. He was talking about there's a difference between quick and fast. And this has nothing to do with what I was talking about, but I think that Justin Fields, I respect that guy a lot, but he has a lot of quickness, his first step. But anyways, I'll let you go ahead. I want to try to give other people a chance to get on, but so I just wondered, you had a particular play though. Do you remember?
A particular play in this game that I remember?
Well, I mean, I'm not doing very good explaining. I forget. It was. I seen the replay of it. It was one of the plays when Alabama was down towards the red zone, and Alabama was towards the red zone, and I just seen the replay, and they was replaying it, and the guys up in the booth was just talking about how because they put Devontae in motion. And I noticed that the corner that was covering him at the time, I don't think it was Wade, and I think it was Smith who was putting him in motion. They kind of basically played a cat and mouse game. And when they sent Devontae Smith in motion, I noticed the cornerback was pretty hesitant which way he's going. And it kind of seemed like maybe, for one, it's Devontae Smith, so it was priority in their head. And I just kind of wondered because they was playing man-to-man. I just didn't know if you remember that specific play.
I don't remember that play. I'm sure if I just saw it once, I would recollect it. I watched every play, but I don't remember that play.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to get on and I don't know. I guess kind of give my opinion, I guess, and see what you thought about the game and everything. But yeah, I know there's a lot of other people that want to call and stuff. I appreciate you giving my call. I just I love being. I love the show because it kind of gives you a sense of community too. So I appreciate. But yeah, well, I'll let everybody else get in on it.
Cool. Well, thanks for the call. We appreciate it every time. Good to hear from you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bama, a national championship here in 2020. So during the playoff era, it's Bama in 2020, LSU in 19, Clemson in 18, Bama in 17, Clemson in 16, Bama in 15, Ohio State in 14. That's our playoff rundown since this all got started. Or if I could stay disciplined to get it right, it's not a playoff, it's an invitational. The playoff invitational, the college football invitational. I'll get it straight. I'll stay with my own rules there at some point. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's going on, Mark? My name is how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I appreciate the call, man. What's on your mind?
And this season for Alabama was, you know, I think it's kind of crazy for me being an Alabama fan. I've seen a lot of great teams come through Alabama and stuff.
Sure.
My personal favorite will always be 16 because of how well that defense always plays. I'm more of a defensive guy.
Yep.
And then when you get to the last couple of years of Tua and stuff, on how big the offense exploded, I started becoming more of an offensive guy. I actually started studying more offense than defense. And this team this year, this offense has just been nothing more than just a privilege to watch. I think and just how sound Sarkisian has been on offense, playing volley-wise, and just how great Devontae, Waddle, Matt Najee, just and that whole line. That might be the best offensive line since 2012 with Barrett Jones and that whole line. I forget a bunch of those players, but and it's just and I want to shout out Ohio State because I'm an Ohio State fan. I don't think they have anything to be embarrassed about. Going into this game, they had a lot of difficulties with COVID, injuries, and stuff. I feel really bad because I predicted Trey Sermon. If he had not gotten injured, I said Trey Sermon was at least going to rush for 150, maybe 2 touchdowns on us because our rush defense was not the best throughout this whole year. And, I think it's just one thing teams really exploited us on, especially early on in games. At least that's what I felt. But yeah, I did not expect this type of score. Really, I was thinking more. I said like 65, 55 or something ridiculous. Really, I thought it was going to be stupid. Just with how talented both teams are, and I don't know. It's just surreal that Saban got 6 with Bama's, one with that other school we don't talk about, and it's awesome, man. I'm excited to see what the future holds for Bama. For road to 18 for road to 19, I should say. Excuse me. And stuff, and let's see what happens. I'm here for it.
Well, you're a class act in giving credit to the opposition, and you're a very gracious winner. So it's nice to hear.
I mean, it's just like there's nothing that I had to get any fans to look at the sport. Over the years, I was always one of those fans when I first started out to be like, this school sucks. But then I started looking at technicality-wise, like, okay, well, this team is really not good in this area. And Ohio State was really not good in their second year because of all the injuries they've had and the people they lost to the draft, really. And honestly, I think, Sean Wade, in my personal opinion, I always felt like he was a safety and more of a slot kind of nickel guy, really.
Sure.
I never really thought he was really an outside kind of corner, But, you got to play your best guys where you got to play them. and hopefully we can actually get some more fans back in there. Because I do miss seeing some fans, man. We really, really do. Hopefully we get stuff figured out, man. So, but yeah, I don't think I got anything else to say. I should kind of call in and say, hey, fans, you guys are going to be all right. And, Ryan Day, this is his third year as a head coach, third or second year?
Second.
I think. That was his second year?
Yes.
Yeah, second year. If you get to the national championship, you guys are fine.
Sure.
Yeah, just look ahead to your guys' recruiting class, and you guys, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And just saying, as long as you guys keep beating John Harbaugh here, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, he's 23-2, and he's been to 2 playoffs and 1 national championship game in 2 years. He's 41 years old, so I think he's doing all right for himself.
He's fine. Trust me. Just and I always say, whenever a new coach hire comes in, just give them 3 years. That third year is really telling that they're not going anywhere in 3 years. Then something's got to change, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But hey, Mark, let me get out of here and stuff. You have a really good night, man, and roll tide, roll baby.
Congratulations, man. Have a good night.
You too, man. Bye.
Good calls from some Bama fans tonight. It's great to hear. Congrats to all you Alabama fans out there. Appreciate that. For you other SEC fans who root for other teams that just kind of latch on to Alabama, that's fine, whatever. That's your deal. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. My name's Zach. I'm from Ohio.
Hey, Zach. How's it going tonight?
Hey. Oh, pretty good, man. I was kind of bummed.
Sure.
I mean, the Buckeyes kind of squandered it. But, play calling was horrible, and Alabama was on par. They're an elite offense right there. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I kind of wanted to call to get your take on Sean Wade and see what you thought about him, because he played pretty much on par of what I thought he would probably play. He played pretty abysmal and just not up to par. And the play calling, the scheme doesn't work with it, but at the same time, he got beat. Like, from what I counted, he was like 2 for 7 when in man, whether it was Smith, Waddle, or even Melchi.
Yeah, so my thought about Sean Wade is that Sean Wade was an elite recruit. He's played well at Ohio State in the past. He was playing with guys in the secondary who were elite in his first couple of years, and he could take a lesser role. He played the slot, as has been well publicized, played the slot and played that type of player and excelled. In his stock was high through his first couple seasons. He was off to a good start in the playoff game against Clemson last year. Ohio State lost, you got to say, more talent than anybody in the secondary in college football last year. 2 number 1 draft picks and another NFL player. So then he gets sent out to the perimeter, and he has not played well. He's not played well this season, and I didn't think he played well in this game either.
I don't either. It's a shame, too, because he was kind of like him and Brendan White back in 2018 when the secondary was pretty inept as well. Like, they were the saviors of that secondary.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of, like, back in 18, they kind of saved it toward the end of the season, and then you thought, oh, okay, all right, I think we got something for next year. And he was phenomenal when Hafley came in and kind of brought it back into the whole elite scheme of that cover one with the one high safety. And, of course, it's good when you have somebody like Jordan Fuller. And actually, from what I saw, like tonight, Josh Proctor playing that, was he? I couldn't really tell. Was he playing safety or was he playing the slot? But regardless, he played pretty good for what it was. It's hard to play a team like Alabama, especially when they have they have the talent and the speed, the playmaking ability and in the receiving core. Like, I mean, I've been a big fan. I'm a big fan of John Melty. Smith gets all the credit, but you know what? John Melty the third. I mean, come on, man. but I mean, it's just a shame that, I mean, part of it was probably a little bit of the scheme, and a lot of it was probably playing bail a lot, because they didn't really want to put our corners in that predicament of playing man and getting beat, but at the same time, you still got to cover. And when he was in man tonight, he got beat. He got beat by Waddle. He got beat by Smith a number of times. He even got beat by John Melty the third, and it's a shame.
Yeah, the Alabama offense is maybe the best we've ever seen. Maybe the best.
It might be. I mean, I'd like to get your thoughts on, like, what did you think of the playmaking for the Buckeyes? I mean, obviously, they got outcoached, especially offensively, by Alabama. I don't even know how to say his name. Sarkisian, his final game and as an Alabama coordinator before he goes to Texas. I mean, phenomenal performance both for the Bama offense and for the coaching. But, like, what do you think about the just in general, like how the Ohio State defensive playmaking was? I mean, I think they just played too soft and conservative the whole game, in my opinion.
Well, they tried to cover up inadequacies by playing soft, and that's one way to do it, and make the other team make precision throws time and time again and drive down the field in 8 and 10 and 12-yard chunks. Well, Alabama's going to take those throws, and then they're going to make you miss from time to time. Even though Ohio State was tackling pretty well in the open field, they're still going to make you miss from time to time, and then they're going to break off a play. And even though you're making them throw underneath, if you make 80% of the tackles, well, you're going to make 4, but then you're going to miss the 5th one, and it's going to turn into a 25-yard gain. And before you know it, they're in the red zone, and it's touchdown because they just have too much talent. So I'm all for, saying, okay, we have to. If our offense does their job, they're going to score in the 40s. Let's just say, and Ohio State didn't do that. They only scored 24. They should have 31 at the end, but they scored 24 points. Regardless, they need to score in the 40s, at least in the 40s, for us to have a shot. So why don't we try to force the issue and bring some blitz packages and play some press man, make them throw it over the top until they show that. And we've got athletes, so at least we force things. Maybe we get some tipped balls, some batted passes at the line. We cause a turnover like Baron Browning did on Mac Jones.
Exactly.
It's easy to say now, but it's hard to watch a team, if you're rooting for that particular team, get eaten alive play after play after play when their corners are playing that passive and that soft.
Yeah, that's the concern for me. Like, especially with Kerry Coombs he's a cornerbacks coach, co-defensive coordinator, and his first time at Ohio State, like, he's a press man guy, and they just didn't play. They didn't probably press when they needed, and then when they shouldn't have played press, that's when they probably should have maybe played a little soft. But it was just, Alabama they outplayed them. They figured them out, and you're not going to beat a team that's predominantly going to be RPO and slant and screen. Every time we play, you play soft coverage, they're going to hit you with screen. They're going to hit you with slant. They're going to hit you with a crossing. And then, of course, when you end up figuring that out, you finally go into a man coverage, they're going to go downfield because they've done figured your defense out. So, you play close up, you're going to get towards, because you were playing too soft from the beginning. So, I mean, I don't know. It's a heartbreaker. So, and I think part of the reason was it hurts. I mean, missing Togiai hurts with on offense with Sermon going down. But I mean, it is what it is. So, hopefully, this is what the beginning of something special later down the road. But it is what it is. We got beat.
Exactly. Appreciate the call. Have a good night, sir.
You do the same. Go Bucks, and you have a great night, Mark.
All right. I'll take some more calls before we hang it up and I get to my top 25 that actually makes sense, because we got some work to do there. Absolutely. And tomorrow's day one of the off season, and we don't stop. So we've got so much more to talk about, analyzing these teams for 2021, analyzing 2020, going ahead to 2021. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Mr. TW. How you doing?
Mr. TW, thank you so much for the contribution, sir. I so much appreciate it. Thank you for your support. It is just, again, greatly appreciated. It's an honor to talk to you, sir.
Hey, just real quick, let me get a little bit of business out of the way. Almost 400 people watching, 158 likes. Come on, folks. Bump up that algorithm. You know the show's worth it.
Amen.
Okay, real fast. Let me just say this. I want to move out of the way. I don't want to delay. The phone call real long. Number one. This is just 2 points. Number one. For all the talk that the SEC was trending down, especially the West, the SEC West should have had two teams in the playoffs. By any logical reasoning, A&M should have been in there also. The SEC is not trending down, and especially the West. This is why the SEC teams should automatically gain a lot of respect when it comes to playoff consideration. Number two, this is the best year for a playoff expansion argument that I've ever seen. We have got to open it up to 8. There's no reason A&M shouldn't have been in there. I love pulling for the underdog. I would have loved to have seen Cincy in it. I would have loved to have seen Coastal Carolina in it. If you have an 18 playoff, you can have a couple of dark horses come from the group of 5. They play undefeated, put them in there, because bowl games are losing their attraction and their value. We watched it even with Florida. Look how many players decided to opt out. Why? Because they're not playing any significant game. 8 would be ideal. I'd be happy with 16, but we need to open it up, or in the next 10 years, bowl games are just going to become exhibition shows. That's it. They're not going to have any value whatsoever unless you're just getting a little more playing or practice time for your new guys. And I'll hang up there, Mark, and I look forward. I hope that my Razorbacks will be in your top 25, because they have busted their tails this year. And we all know they beat Auburn. So I'm going to hang up.
Well, Mr. TW, before you go, I just have one quick question for you. So you said A&M should have been in the playoff in place of who?
In place of Notre Dame.
Okay, just double checking there. Okay, very good.
And the reason why I would say that is because this is what didn't make sense to me. Notre Dame beat a Clemson team without Trevor Lawrence.
Yes.
They beat them barely.
And 3 defensive starters.
Comes back. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence comes back and they skull drag Notre Dame. I mean, it's very clear. A&M's only loss was to Bama. It's so logical. I think you'd have seen a much more competitive game. 2 games in the playoffs at least. But this is the best argument for expanding it. We've got to expand it. I want to see group of 5 teams get in there, like Cincy, Coastal Carolina, hey, Liberty. I'd love to see SMU come back, rise up out of the death penalty, and come back and get in a playoff. I'm jumping off the phone. Love you, brother. Keep going.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Mr. TW, man, love some of you folks, all of you folks, of course, in different ways, but man, some of you guys just get it, because gotta say, I don't ever promote that we're just doing amazing stuff here all the time and I'm always right or anything like that. We're just trying to provide the best in college football content. So that comes from me. I give my analysis. That comes from all these beat writers I bring on all the time. And just look out for the next couple days and what we brought over the last previous days. Arkansas, North Carolina, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame and Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Kentucky, Florida, and I'll stop right there. Others. I've got some Michigan and Oregon talk lined up for tomorrow. So we bring you the information and the insight from the beat writers from 247 Sports and Rivals and other places, SB Nation. You get my analysis. I'm sure a lot of you don't want to hear it a lot, but my analysis. And then we get your calls and we get your insight as all of us together, the voice of college football. We get the live chat. So we deliver. We deliver. Even if you don't like my approach, my analytics, my opinion, that's why we bring on others and we get your take. And all together, it all adds up to a quality product. And again, the mission, I'm not going to say we hit it every day, but that's the aim. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's the mission every day. All right. Oh boy, I just got some type of an offer there. Somebody's mom's single. All right, I don't know where that came from, but woo, I won't go into
the call will start at the beep.
My status right now. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hi, Mark. It's Ben.
Hey, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing good. Well, I'm sorry that y'all lost. I wanted y'all to win.
Well, I appreciate that.
Tough one. But, that, I saw, so Trey Sherman, he went down with an injury early on in the game. And then later on after that, Devontae Smith went down. But it seemed like John Mechie and a lot of those other guys, Jaleel Beasley, I think his last name is Beasley, stepped up. All those guys for Bama stepped up, and Master Teague stepped up for Ohio State. So what can you say about maybe not the backups, but just the options, but not just Bama, but what also, Master Teague and Trey Sherman are that's number 1 and 2 options for Ohio State. So what's your opinion on how deep, not just Alabama and Ohio State rosters, but just, the main top 3 teams, how deep, what's your opinion on how good those rosters are every year?
How good the rosters are from the top 3 teams in the country?
Mm-hmm.
And by top 3,
what's your opinion on how good they are every year?
And by top 3, I'm assuming you mean Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson.
Yes.
Okay. In any given year, Alabama is a cut above. For as great and loaded as Ohio State's roster is, and it definitely is, and for as bad as they looked at times tonight, that roster is loaded with NFL talent, and NFL talent that will play well in the NFL, not just guys that will make rosters and sit on the bench for 3 years and then retire. We're talking about, and just look at the last 5-6 years, Ohio State has produced. I saw another list the other day. Ohio State has the most players in the NFL over the past X number of years, and we're talking about significant players. But right now, Bama, if you look at the roster, and I actually posted a video just the other day that compared the recruiting rankings for the Ohio State roster currently versus the Bama roster. And, there are some places to find where Alabama's a little bit separated there. You've got 14 5-stars on the Ohio State roster. You got 15 for Bama. That's not significant, of course, 15 to 14. But you've got 71 on the Bama roster, and you've got at the 4-star level, and you've got 57 for Ohio State. And you just see a slight edge in recruiting, but I think it's just been better development. And Ohio State's secondary, just there was just a big miss in regards to developing them and preparing them for the season. But let's get back to your question about recruiting. There's 4 teams currently that recruit better than anyone else, and Alabama's at the top of the line. And then it's a fight between actually Ohio State and Georgia, more so than Clemson, if you're just looking at recruiting. If you're looking at the depth and looking at the top-end talent, and that's continuing more so for Alabama and Ohio State than anybody else. Ohio State has signed the number 1 player in the they have signed for 2020, but have received a commitment for the next 2 number 1 players in the 21 and 22 classes. I don't know what else to tell you right there. The rich keep getting richer, and Alabama is at the top of the line, and Ohio State's right there as well. And then the other 2 are right in that vicinity.
Alrighty, well, thank you, Mark, and as always, I mean, I know I've missed the past couple call-in shows, but school and stuff. But I do feel bad for you because I wanted Ohio State to win, but at the end of the day, Alabama, the way they are this year, they just seem to be unstoppable. And even we put 46 on them and we couldn't beat them. So,
well, Ben, I will say that I appreciate your condolences about the loss. And when I was your age, I would have taken this like life and death. But at my age, after you've lived a little while and other things are going on in your life, it's just a football game. So it's not a big deal. But I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good night, Ben.
You too.
All right, everyone. I appreciate it. Mr. T-Dub just called and then sent in the super chat. Again, he gets it. Not all of you are capable of providing any financial assistance and contributing that way, and that's great. Please smash the like button. We just love having you here contributing in any way that you can. A great way is to share the videos on social media. Mr. TW, let me get to your comment here. Mark is the GOAT. Before about, 5 to 10 years ago, somebody would have considered that an insult, but we know what that stands for right there. Appreciate that. Mark is the GOAT. Hit like. That's all we ask. Let's get a ton of likes. Let's crank up the like meter. Put my Razorbacks in that top 25. God bless y'all. So I will have a top 25 for 2020 that will be released by tomorrow, whether I want to stay up late, because I take it seriously. I'm just not like going, Bama 1, Ohio State 2, we'll move up A&M to 3. I compare the wins and the losses, and I go through the metrics of that. And then at some point the next week, I'll try to get out a top 25, way too early top 25 for 2021 so we can talk about that. I got so many ideas for videos coming up. We will be working hard here. Tomorrow, Tuesday, January 12th, is simply the first day of the off season. It is not the end of anything. It's just the first day of the off season, so we can talk about what happened in 2020 and what's going to happen possibly in 2021 and what needs to happen to make it happen. King Vegeta, I apologize if I screwed that up, but King, UCLA will win the Pac-12 in the Rose Bowl this year in 2021. Bam. I better write that down so I don't screw up that prediction. Thank you, King. We appreciate it. I will remind everyone that I did predict before the season started, and I got to find this clip so I can prove it. It's usually what we've done in the past is the college football season will open on a Thursday night. On the night before, that Wednesday, we'll do like a full blowout 3 to 4 hour preview, season preview, and just blow it up and blow it out. Now, we'll provide my predictions. We didn't do that this year because The Big 12 and the ACC was starting here, and all these Group of Five started before them, and then the SEC was going to start, and then we didn't know about the Big 10 and the Pac-12, and then the season was so fragmented, we didn't have a preview special of sorts. And so I don't remember where I put this on record, but it's on record. I did pick Alabama to win the national championship game over Ohio State in August. That was my prediction. Alabama will beat Ohio State in the national championship game. Guess I got to find that. It's out there somewhere. It's under previews or predictions somewhere in August. I'll have to go look for that. All right, real quick here. We got Young Kids Midwest. Aaron Short, Bama fan, but Texas A&M has my respect. They should have been a playoff team. Cheryl believes in Coach Day. No reason not to. Maybe he got schooled in this one. Or maybe his team was just not ready, not prepared. And I don't mean not that they didn't prepare. But again, I think that Clemson game meant so much to them that it was tough to turn around. And I thought that maybe instead of playing like Saturday to Saturday, that they had that extra 3 or 4 days where they didn't have to turn around in 7 days, and that would help them physically, but more psychologically, recover from the Clemson effort to get ready for Bama. We can only speculate how much of a toll that took on Ohio State. All of this is speculation. They're good points. They're indicators. Injuries. Trey Sermon got hurt the first play of the game. How much did that matter? We can only speculate. It's an injury. It's part of football. Alabama lost Jordan Battle. How much can we speculate that that mattered? Maybe it didn't. Maybe it did. Wyatt Davis. This gets, and I'm sure will be under-publicized. Wyatt Davis, Ohio State's best offensive lineman, had to leave the game in the second quarter. How much did that matter? Well, I think when hands were in Justin Fields' face and he was getting bumped around in the pocket and Master Teague wasn't able to run for an extra yard or 2 or 4 or 5, it mattered. Wyatt Davis is going to be playing on Sundays very soon. But all that mattered. Devontae Smith left the game in the third quarter. He could have run for 500 yards. He might have caught 20 passes for 500 yards. We will never know. So, Alabama, the one thing we do know, Alabama outclassed Ohio State tonight. They were the much superior team. Ohio State's extremely loaded, talented, had a first-round quarterback, a top 2 quarterback in the NFL draft, but it wasn't good enough. They weren't good enough. Their injuries, the COVID hurt, but Alabama was far, 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 far superior. The best team in the country. Ohio State may still be the second best team in the country, but that's the gap. All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Hit that like button on your way out. Follow the lead from so many, including Mr. TW. All right. Ethan is telling us that every year SEC teams play teams at bowl season that finished higher in their respective conferences. Truth. The bowl selectors understand it. You see the second place in a conference play the 5th team in the SEC. That's a little bit overstated, but it's basic truth. Basically. Not when it's typically a Big Ten team, and don't take this year as an example, Ethan, because it's totally screwed up this year because the SEC got, besides Bama, Texas A&M, Florida, and Georgia into the New Year's Six. Typically, the Big Ten gets as many teams into the New Year's Six as the SEC, and those two conferences typically line up. Not this year, but we can go season to season to season. That's another one of my projects, was I was looking at bowl records. And again, you guys know me. We just don't say, oh, the SEC so-and-so in bowl play 7-2 this year, and the Big Ten is 3-2, and the ACC is 0-6, and that's what it means. No, we got to look deeper into it. We got to put it into context. Who did they play? So since 2010, I'm just going to give you a little precursor, a little preview to what we're working on here. This has taken some time to put together. The SEC record in bowl play since 2010, I got to correct this now with the win tonight, is now 69-39. And for those of you who are now saying, well, this was not a bowl game tonight, yes, it wasn't a bowl game, but we're talking about postseason play. The SEC, 69-39, very impressive. Against the Power 5, 61-35. Against the Group of 5, might surprise you, 7-4. Versus ranked teams, 38-22. 30-17 against unranked teams. 8-3 when ranked SEC teams play unranked teams, they're 8-3. Then when unranked SEC teams play ranked teams from other conferences in bowl play, 4-5. That's actually pretty impressive. When the SEC team's the higher ranked team, they're 12-6. When they're the lower ranked team in the game, they're 22-11. That's impressive. And on and on and on. There's a ton of it there. This is the kind of stuff I work on to try to produce videos for you. I also went through my predictions versus the results. So you see there, Florida, right there. I picked Florida to go 7-3. They went 8-2 in the regular season. I picked Georgia to go 8-2. They went 7-2. I picked Missouri to go 2-8. They went 5-5, etc. I didn't write all that down just for my health. I'm going to cut a video. And we also, I went back to 2014 in determining what would an 8-team college football playoff look like. So in 2014, we've got two different sets there. We've got the one that would include 5 conference champions, 2 at-large teams, wild cards, and 1 group of 5. And then the other one over here is based on the College Football Playoff Selection Committee rankings. So I'm going to cut a video on that. Go through every year. What would a playoff look like? 2015. That's what our playoff would look like if we went with the college football playoff rankings over here, or if we went with the 5 conference champions, the 2 wild cards, and the group of 5 entry. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be spitting out here in the next few weeks. A ton of stuff that I'm working on right now. And if anybody watches it, I would love to go through every season like I started to last year. During the offseason, go through every year in the history of college football and poke some holes in the national championship. All right. I won't go into that anymore. King, thank you once again. Appreciate that. All right, everyone. We will catch everybody back here very soon. Smash the like button. Share the videos on social media. If you really want to help us build a channel, then smash the like button and share the videos on social media. You can also contribute financially at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Also, I saw something here that we need to clean up before we leave. And that was left by Shanktopotamus. Where is it? Shanktopotamus. Sorry, it doesn't work. No 14 teams. We don't want buys. Buys do not work. Buys do not work for this reason. Obviously, you're giving automatic entry into the next round for certain teams. You're giving them a forfeit win of sorts. That's not fair. You don't just give teams wins. That's wrong. It's not fair. It works in the NFL because they have an objective playoff system and an objective format to determine buys that are earned based on playing a like schedule. So it doesn't work in college football. Buys don't work because they elevate teams that shouldn't be elevated, that haven't done anything to earn it objectively, number one. Number two, the injury factor for the teams that play. They are... Think of this. Think if this was 2 teams playing tonight, Alabama and Ohio State. Let's say this was a first-round playoff game next year, and the winner was going to play Oklahoma. Well, We saw Wyatt Davis get hurt, the best offensive lineman for Ohio State. We saw Trey Sermon get hurt, their best running back. We saw Devontae Smith bust a finger or whatever he did. That would impact the next game and would give a huge advantage to the team that received the bye that was waiting to play the winner of Alabama-Ohio State. Plus, what do they get? They get to watch those two teams and scout them. That's too huge of an advantage to the team that gets the bye. They get to kick back and get more game tape on the two teams that just played and strategize for 10 days, 11 days, 10 or 11 days advantage. So while Alabama and Ohio State are preparing for a first-round playoff game, let's say the winner's playing Oklahoma. Oklahoma can sit before this game's even played and scout Ohio State and Alabama for an extra 10 or 11 days. And they'd scout both of them, not knowing who would win the game. But that's too big of an advantage for teams receiving byes. No byes in a playoff. I'm going to screen that until kingdom come. All right, everyone. Great to see you. Go Alabama. Go college football. Congrats, Alabama, on a 45th national championship, and we will see you soon. Hit that bell for the notifications. Once you subscribe, we will be live very soon. And, of course, we've got new videos coming out tomorrow featuring North Carolina and Arkansas. Did you hear that, Mr. TW? Arkansas videos coming up very soon, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.